Picture this, you just left the animal shelter with your new doggy best friend and you're excited to take on the world together. Only problem is that your furry sidekick is having trouble behaving. You research effective ways to train your fluffy sidekick and come across the dominance training theory. Through further research, you discover the dominance training theory enforces that trainers must use force to modify challenging behaviors in their dog. Furthermore, this theory interprets that misbehavior in dogs is from them attempting to achieve a higher dominant rank over their human owners. Although this training method may have a desired effect in correcting the misbehavior in dog, it is not fixing the underlying problem that is causing the behavior in the dog. The dominance training theory uses the idea that dogs closely follow the dynamics of their wolf ancestors, which was seen in a study done by a Swiss animal behaviorist, Rudolf Schenkel, who studied dominance hierarchy in wolf packs in a zoo in the 1930s. Schenkel concluded that the winner of the dominance fights between the wolves will be considered the alpha wolf, which is still a term that remains relevant today. Only this time, the owner is considered the alpha and must keep that position at all times for the dog to obey. The most common techniques used in the dominance training theory are alpha rolls, leash corrections, and assertive body language. Alpha rolls involve physically forcing the dog to lay on its side until it submits to the owner. Leash corrections, or a commonly used tool, choke collars, involve tightening the leash or collar to stop the dog from performing undesirable behavior. Assertive body language is also utilized to maintain the dominant appearance to the dog. This body language includes increased eye contact, raised voice volume, expansive posture, and sharp, rigid movements. Let's look at how the dominance training theory may affect your furry friend on a cellular, organismal, and ecological level.
When a dog is trained using the dominance theory, it may experience elevated levels of stress and anxiety due to the force placed upon the dog from the trainer and the involuntary participation expected from the dog, despite it not being able to understand what the expected behavior is. The increase of stress can lead to increase of cortisol release that can impair brain function. Within the brain, glucocorticoids are stress hormones that are released to activate the HPA axis. When there's a high elevation of glucocorticoids from stress, it can impair memory retrieval within an individual. Looking at the organismal level, the influx in stress can also affect the immune system of a dog by weakening it. This occurs when the cell-mediated immunity responses, or CMI, become suppressed. The CMI is maintained by type 1 and type 2 cytokines. Stress hormones, such as cortisol, can disrupt the balance of these cytokines and alter their production, making them unable to properly regulate and maintain the CMI. One of the biggest concerns with the dominance dog training theory is the idea of learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is when animals are exposed to unpredictable and uncontrollable stress, so they develop coping mechanisms for aversive situations. Learned helplessness can lead to a decrease in motivation and disengagement from the dog. There is also the possibility that the dog may act out through a misbehavior due to the dog feeling like it has a lack of control. Turning to an evolutionary perspective, although dogs are descendants of wolves, they do not share the same behaviors because of domestication and evolution. In fact, domesticated dogs are more in tune with human cues, and their behavior is more influenced by social factors, and not the strict hierarchies stemmed from their wolf ancestors. Dogs diverged from wolves about 15,000 years ago through self-domestication. Therefore, using dominance that may work for wolves would not be a relevant training theory to be used on dogs. Most of the inappropriate behaviors from dogs are not actually carried out to gain higher rank, but because instead they have been rewarded and reinforced in some way for performing that undesirable behavior.
There are ethical concerns regarding the dominance training theory that put both the dog's welfare and human-animal bond at risk. The dominance training theory is an animal welfare violation as it involves involuntary participation from the dog. It takes away the dog's ability to express normal behavior as they are constantly put in a position where they must submit to the owner by force. This choice of training can also affect how the dog becomes attached to the owner, as it is putting the human-animal bond at risk of being damaged, as seen through the increased stress, anxiety, and aggression from the dog. The theory is also outdated and therefore lacking scientific integrity, especially with the increase in evidence and societal shift towards positive reinforcement training. The dominance training theory applies a punishment without addressing the cause of the behavior, which raises the question, how ethical is it to apply a punishment when the underlying cause of the behavior is not clearly determined by the owner? So the next question is, what is the better alternative training strategy to stop a dog from doing undesirable behaviors? Positive reinforcement is a safer, more ethical, and effective way to train your dog that targets the underlying problem of why the dog is misbehaving, therefore preventing any confusion between the dog and the owner. It was first seen in Skinner's operant conditioning experiment, where rewards were given to reinforce the wanted behavior with the goal to increase that behavior in the future. Instead of using force or aggression to correct the misbehavior in the dog, the reward is not given after the undesirable behavior occurs with the goal to not reinforce it and have that behavior occur again in the future. It has also been studied that positive reinforcement increases dopamine, which increases motivation, decision-making, and predicting rewards, overall making training much easier between the dog and the owner. Using rewards for positive behavior can also build the trust between the dog and its owner. This is because the dog now sees yummy good treats coming from a good and safe person. I hope this video can give you some insight on the best training for your furry friend. Good luck and happy training!